Final layers of wet Nomex underwear. The clothing has been wetted down with fire gel, a water-based gel that is essentially thick.
Wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to all of you who are tuned into today's edition of the program with myself, Saima Aziz, and my colleague and co-host Suleiman Zahafi, who is joining us here in the studio. Assalamu alaikum, Suleiman. How are you doing today?
Salam to you, Saima. Good morning to viewers. Hopefully you already had a good breakfast, waking up good early, and if you just woke up right now about 5-10 minutes ago and you're still watching us, that's okay. I think because many people are on vacation. And hopefully the whole point is when you wake up is to have something to eat, whether you drink water, because I'm sure many people, when you wake up, you get thirsty, you know that? So a lot of people, they have a cup of water next to them in the table or something like that, and they just go ahead and drink water. So go ahead when you wake up, have some water, and throw some water in your face, get ready, brush your teeth, and have a good breakfast. And do not forget your orange juice, because you know, orange juice is something very good. You know, you get your vitamins and nutrients early in the morning. Have some eggs, have some healthy muffin. Do not have the unhealthy muffin where you put everything unhealthy with sugar and everything. The whole point is to have a good start in the morning, because when you have a good start, the remaining of the day will be very good. And today, right before the show, we're discussing about water, whether many people are hydrated or not. And I was discussing with Saima about the types of water. I won't say necessarily the types of water, but necessarily the types of bottling for the water. Because she was saying about she has those green, I think the green bottle. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then you stop bringing it because Ghazi used to mention it too many times to you.
Yeah. Because Suleiman, you know, when we talk about hydration and water consumption, now we understand that hydration is related to so many of the different alliances of the body. In fact, our body is mostly comprising of water.
Yes.
So now whenever it is that we're not going to be having enough of water, then what happens is we tend to feel lethargic. Sometimes because of not drinking enough water, we feel more cravings and more hunger, because our body is like, you know, telling us that we need to hydrate. But we think that, oh, we are getting lethargic, that means we need some, you know, real stuff. That means that, you know, we dig into some more food. So it is so important for us to be drinking enough water. But yes, for myself, during the summertime, as I leave home early in the morning, I really do not understand of how much water should I have for the day. Now, of course, here in the ministry, we do have water dispensers at different places, and then we have our cafeteria guys who stroll around with their huge buffet trolleys, and they have water in everything as well. But you have to wait until you come across one of those guys to buy more water, or to be just, you know, refilling your water vessel. And again, as we talk about water consumption, we should be drinking at least 1.5 liter of water a day, which is going to be equivalent to 6 to 8 glasses of water at least. Now, I would say usually it's better to have, like, you know, 250 mLs of water and have up to 12 glasses of it. This is what I would say. But then again, each one has their own preference. So for myself, I got myself a liter bottle of water. This is a particular container which is available in one of our favorite coffee shops, which is all around the world, and especially everywhere in Saudi Arabia as well. And you get to carry it everywhere with you with enough sufficient amount of water. But my issue with that was that no matter how well do I clean it, it has a plastic smell to it when you're drinking from the vessel, and the same applies to all the plastic bottles that we would buy from pretty much anywhere.
Yeah, because when you have the plastic bottles and you just leave it right there, you know what I mean, the plastic, I don't know what it is, from the heat or something like that, it's starting to smell funny, and it becomes, say, the contaminated. So a lot of the advice is use it one plastic bottle a day and just throw it away. Do not save it overnight, do not save it in the car, and if you do, get rid of it quickly, because when you go ahead and drink it, you'll feel bad, because the taste will be different, the smell will be different, and it's something that's not really good. It's good you have water, but it's not the way it was stored. At the moment, dear viewers, we'll be taking a short report and we continue discussion right after this. Stay tuned.
back once again. You're still tuned to the Saudi Morning Show, and as we were taking a look at that particular report of ours, and this was a discussion Suleiman Darghazi and I were having yesterday in the program as well, which was about vitamin K. He was talking about vitamins and the consumption of vitamins early in the morning, and then I started with the new information that I acquired, which is that coffee has vitamin K in it. So here our production team is always following up with whatever it is that is being said on the program, and as well today they have provided us with more details about vitamin K, as vitamin K is a fascinating nutrient with respect to bone health, and unlike some of the open-ended questions related to clotting, knowledge about the role of vitamin K nourishment in bone support is fairly well established. Individuals who are vitamin K deficient have repeatedly been shown to have greater risk of fracture. In addition, for women who have passed through menopause and have started to experience unwanted bone loss, that means lower bone density, vitamin K has clearly been shown to help prevent future fractures as well for many of the women. And as well as when we talk about vitamin K, I was talking about one of its sources, which is coffee.
Coffee, yeah, I'm sure like a lot of the coffee drinkers around, they're like, yes, I got my vitamin K for the day. So it's something good, because you know we had many guests on the show that's like, if you have too much coffee, it's bad. Or if you don't have no coffee, you know, it's something that's not good, because many people still, it's a habit throughout the day. So go have 1 cup of coffee, maximum 2 cups of coffee, and you'll be okay. So because it has some type of nutrients and some type of benefits behind it.
Definitely. And as we were talking, so when we talk about coffee, even we know that the base is of water. But getting back to the discussion that we were just having before going on that break, Suleiman, so we get to see that especially in weather like this, and very soon we would be having Hajj coming up as well. It is so important for people, sometimes even more important than food, is for you to be drinking water.
Yeah, because during the break I mentioned to you that there's been, I won't say research, but many theories. People that have been drinking more water than average people, they're able to stay younger and keep their skin more hydrated.
And lose weight as well.
Yes, because when you drink water, but not the excessive amount, because we don't want to destroy your kidneys. Like we had a kidney specialist, he said if you have too much water, you will destroy your kidney and overcome it. So pretty much you don't want to do that. You want to drink gradually. Like he mentioned, he said, Allah gave you the blessing of the thirst. You know what I mean? The mechanism of thirst. Use it to advantage. If you feel a little thirsty, take a sip. Like you used to have a big bottle. I mean, like Ghazi made fun of you, but the point is like it makes your person feel younger and it makes you feel better. Because just go ahead and have like a big bottle, small bottle, it's up to you. But just have water next to you, so throughout the day, just drink it. Do not just gulp and like have like 1 cup before you eat something. It's like, no, I have the average water intake for the day. That's not the way. Have it throughout the day. That's the biggest.
Definitely. And I mean, of course, if you're going to be drinking 4 glasses of water in one go, then you are putting all this fluid into your body, and your body is going to excrete it before you would know it as well. So when you drink it gradually, your body is going to absorb all the important nutrients from the water that it needs, and then the rest of it is going to be eventually flushed away from your system. But well, with this, we're going to be having our next stop, which is our next report for the day, where we are going to be taking a look at our next segment, so stay tuned.
Welcome back, dear viewers. That was our Twitter topic of the day, which was about fighting obesity. Like we mentioned about water, and is able to help the obese people lose weight. Obese people tend to have a tendency of eating fast food regularly. And if you're one of those many people today who lead a very hectic lifestyles, then chances are that you will have the lack of time to cook your own meals at home. I've seen many people, it's like in the mornings, they don't want to wake up early, or they're too hectic, they're too busy, too stressed. They just go ahead and buy something that's unhealthy. And after all, ordering from fast food restaurants is much more convenient, I understand. But when you buy those type of food, it comes packed with calories, saturated fats, sugar, and other fattening ingredients. So many of the goals, like we're trying to inform you today, is try to cook like a large portion at home, something that's healthy, whether it's a good snack or something like that. Then pre-cook it, like warm it early in the morning and take it with you for lunch. So you're able to, it's home cooked, it's something that you like, you enjoy, and it's something that's healthy. Because if you go outside, it's like too much fat, too much grease, very unhealthy. You'll be inclined to eat it because it's convenient at the end. But the whole point is trying to avoid it. Fighting obesity is something that we're trying to do here at the Saudi Morning Show, and it's becoming more and more increasing because here in Riyadh, especially here in the KSA, people are more inclined to lack of exercise. They're not doing much activity, and they inclined to more drive. They want to drive there. So this is one of the big issues. So slowly, little by little, we'll be able to fight obesity one day at a time, hopefully.
Absolutely. And so, well, with this, getting back again to the discussion that we were having now, Suleiman, as we talk about water, I think this is the ultimate summer statement.
This is the biggest factor we need.
Absolutely. And, consider it like, a part of your total overall dress up and the statement that you're making. You have to have a water bottle always in your hand. This is something so important because when you're going to be carrying it in your hand is when you're going to be always drinking it as well. Ghazi and myself, we always carry water bottles in our hand, and sometimes after we finish the program, we would be walking out of the studio, and then one of us would get back to pick up our water bottle that we forgot. It's just like how you always keep your cell phones in your hand. You develop a habit of having to carry a water bottle in your hand all the time, even if you're taking small gulps from it, but you are going to be having it throughout the day. This is something which is so very, very important. People who have diabetes, people who are obese, people who have other health complications, people who have kidney and liver diseases. We cannot name enough categories of people who are going to benefit from having enough amounts of water. And as we go through the coming days of the week of the Saudi Morning Show, we're going to emphasize more upon the need of drinking water and who are the people who are really gonna benefit from drinking water. But nonetheless, just remember that this is something which is one of the most important and essential things for you as well. And also when we talk about water, we have to be understanding that a lot of the people do not get thirsty, because the more it is that you drink water, the more it is that you feel the thirst as well. The less water that you drink, the less your body is going to be dependent on water, and it's going to be absorbing water from the different foods that you are consuming. Actually, yes. So you have to be drinking water to make a habit of it, because 6 glasses of water is the minimum intake that you're going to be having, and eventually your body is going to give you more signs that it is getting thirsty. But well, for the moment, it is time for us again to be embarking on towards our next report for the day, where we are going to be taking a look as to how it is that you could be much healthy and much more fit with Mr. Christopher Latz. Stay tuned.
KSA, the 5th workout for today on the Swiss ball. This is where we're going to sit on the ball and do an abdominal crunch. All right. The difference between doing an abdominal crunch on the Swiss ball compared to doing it on the floor is because it's proven that it activates more muscle groups in your abdominal area than on a hard surface. The reason is because this is a softer surface, so your subcutaneous or your internal abdominal area really needs to activate to keep yourself balanced on the ball, and also it needs a little bit more coordination. So I've seen a few people back in the day falling off the Swiss ball, but the safest way to do it, okay, the ball is right behind you, means you touch your calves, okay, make sure feet parallel, sit on the ball until you get to a nice stable position. What you want to do is you don't want to move, you don't want to get your upper back onto the ball very fast. So you don't want to just slide forward. In a couple of steps, you get your left leg forward, right leg forward, left leg forward, right leg forward. Get your feet about 90 degrees, as you can see, for stability. Mid back on the ball, okay, as you can see. And the beginner movement is just to cross your hands, same as on the floor, and just doing an abdominal crunch. You're either going to keep your neck tucked in, or you're going to keep your neck straight, depending on how strong your neck muscles are. But you don't want to see any swinging of the neck. All right, you're going to exhale as you go up, inhale as you go down. What you want to do, you don't want to move, use momentum out of your hips. You want to focus, really focus on pulling yourself up out of your abdominals. Now a good way to see that is when you start seeing yourself shake, okay, like shivering, because that tells me you're trying to activate your abdominals. When there is no shaking of the body, okay, that tells me you're using momentum, okay? So I'm going to show you the incorrect technique or the wrong technique first, and then I'll show you the right technique. This is the wrong technique. Yeah? Mafi koyas. Okay? Correct technique. Ab start, mid back on the ball. Hands across, and you're going to go up. As you can see, I'm shaking. That's a good thing. That tells me I'm trying to use my abdominals to pick myself up. Okay? You can see it. Advanced movement. That is the trick of being on the Swiss ball. Seeing your body, you want to get it shaking, because then you're really activating your middle to your lower obliques. You're going to exhale as you go up and inhale as you come down. Thank you.
Welcome back, dear viewers. That was our fitness expert, Christopher Lass, and it was one of the ways to strengthen your abdominal lower back exercise with a Swiss ball. Like we mentioned many times, it's something that's very simple. You just have a simple ball and different exercises that targets your lower back, your abdominal, because this is one of the most important areas to target. Because they call it the toxic waste, and this is the toughest fat. So simple exercise like this, you do it 5, 10, 15 minutes. Hopefully you're able to do it at an expert level after a mini while for 30 minutes. And the whole goal, if you're able to try it, let us know on our Facebook, Twitter, and email. What did you think of this exercise? Was it something that's very productive, that you love with it? And I'm sure, some exercises are good for one person, but it's bad for another person, whether they have many medical complications, back injuries, maybe they had an abdominal surgery or something like that. But please be safe while you do many of the exercises, and let us know. And make sure you drink enough water while you work out.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of the time, Suleiman, we get to see that people, while they are working out now, there are some of the different ways of how it is that people are going to be acting, and their bodies are going to be acting when they are working out. There are some people who sweat a lot, yes, and there are some people who would not be sweating a lot. So we could be working out in the same gym side by side, but you're going to sweat more than me. But nonetheless, for the people who sweat or for the people who do not sweat, we all need to be drinking enough amount of water. But when you're exercising in between, let's say if you're working on the treadmill, if you're running on the treadmill, and you would have like a whole glass full of water, then it would actually hinder your workout session. Because you put so much fluid in one time. So that is the reason that we always get to see sports bottles. And when we talk about bottled water, like buying the inexpensive amount of water from the regular store shelves actually, then you would find the sport water bottles as well, even amongst the commercial brands of water. And those are meant to be for people who are exercising or who are working out, so that you would be having a small gulp at a time. You're not going to be able to have a mouthful of water. It never gives you a mouthful of water actually. And that is the trick when you're exercising or when you're working out, that you need small gulps every now and then of water just to keep going. And this is something which is very important as well, because you need to be getting the right amount of oxygen through the cells of your body while you're working out, so that you would be able to gain from this session and not feel totally drained out or lethargic by the time that you finish.
Yeah, like you mentioned, it's like when you take it, like you go in a treadmill, you start working out, you take a whole couple of glasses of water, you feel kind of heavy because it's in your stomach. It's a volume. You know what I mean? So when you start moving around, it moves around your stomach, and you feel more tired. So the whole point is, like you mentioned, take a couple of sips, and if you're during the breaks, you know what I mean, taking a short break with a 2-minute, 3-minute break, because you know you want to continue the same momentum you're doing, just keep up the sweat and the heartbeats and everything. Take a couple of gulps, you know what I mean? Take more than usual. But the whole point is make sure that you're quite hydrated perfectly, because one of the biggest concerns, I'm sure, like many of the athletes, marathon runners, that when they don't drink enough water, they get tired too much quicker, and then they start getting headaches, because you know the body's, the mind, and everything is all connected. You know what I mean? You want to make sure you're in one sync working out, and to reach that goal you want. And for the moment, dear viewers, we'll be taking you for a daily segment, which is around the world. We'll be taking you discussing about Mid-East balancing, inventors developed shoes, I believe, that stopped the falling over. We'll be showing you shortly, and we'll be joining after this. Stay tuned.
Welcome back once again. You're still tuned to the summer's edition of the Saudi Morning Show. As we talk about summers, well, we could be running the summer edition for a long time for this year, as the weather seems like currently it doesn't look like it's going to be cooling off anytime soon. So we can expect until perhaps the end of October when we are going to be able to really be outdoors in the afternoons without having too many issues or problems. Or sometimes actually if the winter lasts you for a long time, then that means that the summer is going to be at your end much longer too. So maybe perhaps it could be even the beginning of November or to even mid-November that we are going to start to have cool afternoons. But well, nonetheless, we enjoy the summertime here in Saudi Arabia. There's no reason why we should complain, and especially if you're going to be having enough water, then you would feel that your overall body temperature is never going to get that high as well. And this is really, really a very good thing. Now, when it is that you're going to be drinking enough water, you would always feel cool. This is one of the things, Suleiman, that a lot of the people do not understand. When they're going to be complaining of heat or how hot it is, you would see them that they are drinking some kind of a juice. Now, you can drink fresh juices and they're good for you if they're actually going to be fresh, especially, or any cold beverage for that matter. But when you are going to drink cool water, it's going to always continue to keep your blood pressure balanced and your whole body balanced.
Yeah, it's like I've noticed in summer, I don't know where they get the theory of. It's like when they drink cold sodas, they think it's going to keep me refreshed. You may feel refreshed for 5 minutes, you know what I mean, 10 minutes max, but then overall you get more thirsty and you'll be drinking more. And this is one of the big issues, like here we have in KSA and around the world, where they keep drinking more sodas. Like juice is good, but too much juice is very bad because it also has natural sugars. Like we mentioned, we had an expert here as do not drink too much juice. If you want to avoid the sodas, try to switch to juice because it tastes really good and it's cold. And then decrease slowly from the juice and then try to move on to water. So step by step. But overall, try to avoid any sodas at all because, you know, yes, it does taste good, but it has no nutritional values at all for it. And at the end, you will feel very bad because when you move away from sodas for a couple of months, then you go just to have a taste of it, you feel like like a sugar rush to your body. And this is how you know that how bad it is, and you will feel so much better when you stay away from it.
Absolutely, and it consumes a lot of volume of your stomach as well. So you're going to be having a bulging tummy because of having too much concentration on carbonated drinks as well. This is something that we all need to think about. But well, for the moment, let's move on towards the stock market. Let's take a look as to how it is that the markets are doing. We join you shortly to continue with today's edition of the Saudi Morning Show. Welcome back. Though you were still looking as to what is happening in the studio with our crane camera, the higher one which is up there, actually it is because we got a small technical problem, so we could not immediately roll for you the stock market as we mentioned earlier. But as we talk about going on air every single day with a live program which is an hour and a half, well, there are so many challenges to it. Timing is always a very, very crucial issue. A lot of the people, they have mainstream jobs, important jobs, and they can afford 5-10 minutes before or after. But when you are running a live show, then time is something that you can never ever disregard. And at the same time, to have the whole team together at the same hour in the morning every single day is a challenge in itself. And then the challenge that everybody faces when they are coming from home to work, of course, it's never going to be used as an excuse, but there is a big challenge that the traffic situation brings to our lives every single morning as well. But nonetheless, we are here with the Saudi Morning Show for you from Sunday to Thursday, coming to you live every day from 10:30 in the morning to 12. So well, we hope that you enjoy the effort that the team of the Saudi Morning Show puts in bringing this program to you live on air every single morning. For the moment, we are embarking on towards the stock market. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to viewers. That was our stock market around the world, and our next guest is Mr. Abdullah Ramadhan, who is a computer engineer, and we'll be discussing, and he has expertise as a mobile phone security expert. So welcome to the show, Mr. Abdullah.
Thank you very much.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Before we start the show, you mentioned that you just recently graduated from the United
I
States.
did, yes, a year ago. I finished my degree in computer engineering. I'm very proud of that.
How was your experience there?
It was great. It was great. A wonderful experience. It's a wonderful program. I mean, people are. I feel very privileged that I was able to partake in such a great scholarship program. And it's just a new experience, and being exposed to such a different culture is very personally enriching.
And you will personally recommend for a lot of the Saudi citizens watching at home to go ahead and pursue their education?
Oh, absolutely, definitely. And I'm sure if they're watching this, then they definitely want to learn English, and that's the place to go.
Let them get excited now, because you
Absolutely.
get a new experience overseas.
It's a great experience.
Now, it's
definitely.
remarkable support that the custodian of the Two Holy Mosques Scholarship is
Yes.
providing to hundreds and thousands of students, actually. And I believe about 100,000 just within the United States, actually. And then, North America, if we rope in that, to United Kingdom and the other parts of the world. May Allah the Almighty bless the custodian of the Two Holy Mosques as to the way that he is striving to give quality education to the youth of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And we hope that the young people would continue to make him proud and the kingdom proud. But with this, moving on with our discussion, Mr. Abdullah Ramadhan, as we understand that you are a mobile phone security expert and this is your main area of interest. Tell us a little bit about it, as when we talk about mobile phones now, mobile phones are not really for us to keep up with the world or to keep up with social networking, but it has literally become extensions of our hands, actually. And we feel like something important is missing. Sometimes we get to hear now our friends or colleagues, especially some of the guys who like to keep their wallets in their hands, sometimes they would come back into the room because they forgot their wallet or keys, but almost never their mobile phones.
Never. I definitely agree with you. I was discussing with a colleague of mine how technology has invaded our lives within the last 20 years.
Yes.
and become such a crucial part of our modern day lives. So it was really saying that when you think about the mobile phone, it's kind of our sixth sense. In addition to the five senses that we have already established, cell phones are our sixth sense.
Yeah.
And truly, what you were saying is correct, because slowly all these smartphones and smart devices and mobile devices are taking the place of our personal computers.
Sure.
And now a lot of people have replaced their personal computers with mobile phones. So with that, mobile phones have been susceptible to attacks, to the studious efforts of hackers and malware creators to kind of infiltrate these devices and just gain whatever they can gain out of them, whether they be just personal information, intellectual property, as we were discussing, or simply just actually make money out of it by making their way into your digital wallets like Google Wallet and PayPal. So there you go.
It seems like everything now is like on our phones. We have every type of accounts. I'm sure many of the viewers at home, they have, whether it's Yahoo, Gmail, their bank accounts, app, like you mentioned, PayPal, all the big ones, So how dangerous it is now, the technology, because we're so technology advanced, and every year there's something new, maybe twice or three times a year there's some newer phone for the same thing.
Right.
How dangerous is it now that more companies are more worried, or say me, I'm worried, I have all my information, that people are now has access to it just from the Wi-Fi or can access to my phone personally?
Right. So we need first and foremost we need to distinguish between the personal use of a mobile phone or mobile device, because there are phones and there are iPads and so on and so forth, tablets, and also the business sense of the use, or sorry, the business sector when they use when they have access to mobile phones. Now, on a personal level, yes, you want to you want to protect your private information, private pictures, emails, your financial assets, as you've mentioned, your access to bank accounts, your access to your Google Wallet and PayPal. That's one issue. Now, on another issue, you have businesses that want to want to protect their intellectual property. They want to protect their intercommunication. So you want to always thwart any attacks that make a network infrastructure of a company their target. So when it comes to personal phones or personal devices, what you need is, and a lot of people kind of don't understand, or they sort of play down the importance of having anti-malware software on their devices. They think, oh, I just need to get the McAfee antivirus for my computer or the Norton antivirus, but no, that's a phone. It's not but it works in the same way. It has its own operating system. It has its own structure. It can so easily be infiltrated with that. And a lot of people don't even own PCs. They own phones, and they don't understand the importance of protecting it from virus and malware attacks. Now, on the business level, a lot of businesses are aware of this, but a lot of businesses aren't. But a lot of businesses that are aware of that, and when they mainly work in the IT industry, they sort of have a good grasp of what to do in the sense of protecting their infrastructure and their network assets. So what they do is they have their own what's called a private VPN, where you need like a security token to access a certain network. And that certain token always gets refreshed pretty much every like 2 or 3 minutes. That way, they ensure that no snooping around happens on their network. But we're discussing personal devices.
Yes,
and it's,
I mean, if we move away from the larger arena to our world arena. Now, for myself, I am my world.
Right.
And my mobile phone shares a big part of my world and my private life in it as well. Now, there are so many of the people who have concerns, not necessarily everybody who's keeping important files. Some people may have private things in their mobile phone that they do not wish for anybody to see or to have access to. How is it that we can think about our privacy? And very recently, as one of our very popular networks, social networks, introduced the messenger service, it was a major privacy concern for so many of the people, including myself, who is an absolute illiterate when it comes to technology and gadgets and networking, because I do not understand it. And before you download the messenger service of Facebook, it shows you the details of it, and it says that it's going to be able to have access to everything pretty much in your mobile phone, which is something very scary. But then I, on a second note, thought that I'm going to be able to not share any messages anymore with my friends and people I want to write to. And at the same time, when I'm using any of the social networking services, they are getting access to my data and to my details anyway, so forget about it. Let's not think too much upon those lines and go ahead and install it. But I still had concerns for a long time. Tell us a little bit about this.
So it's always a main concern when it comes to mobile devices when you install third-party software. What I mean by third-party software is software that's not indigenous to the phone, that does not come with the actual operating system of the phone, like the calendar, all that. So a lot of people, when I'm talking about third-party software, I'm talking about a very famous game that we all know. It's called Flappy Bird, if you guys are aware of it.
Yes.
So it drove everybody crazy. Now the initial creator of the game has already pulled the game out of the market, but the problem is that there's other people that are hackers, or what I call hacktivists, have made reincarnations of the game where you download and you think this is the actual game, and then you find out, well, guess what? It's a malware device. It's a malware software that infiltrates your phone and pretty much pulls out all the data. Now, you mentioned Facebook, and yes, it was a major concern. Every time we download all these programs, we see like a list of authentications and approvals that the software requires the initial user to approve to. So and you have no option. You want to use that software, you have no option but to pretty much just agree to everything. Kind of like signing on a blank check. So that happens, and there are piracy laws and there are privacy laws. Sorry, and so you kind of sometimes want to just trust that and have no idea, but have no other option but to kind of trust these software because they're world known and all that. Now, recently, even Facebook, you mentioned something about Facebook, and recently Facebook has been asking users to have access to your pictures. And now that's a dangerous thing. I would recommend that you always, pretty much on a weekly basis, just clear out the pictures that you have, because you have like family pictures and you have important documents, so you do not want those to be exposed to the world. You know what I mean? You want to choose what you show the world out of your own privacy realm. So definitely always try to back up your device. Try to delete any pictures that you have on your phone. The documents always need to be kept in a safe place. Backups, constant backups are crucial when you have an electronic device. Now, when it comes to messaging, yes, a lot of people are trying to opt out of this, and currently Facebook are in talks, and they're trying to discuss with law firms and stuff to make sure that that this is completely secure, or users can opt out and not use the messaging capability if they don't have that messenger program that Facebook is trying to install on our devices.
Indeed. And like you mentioned, Mr. Abdullah, right now it's like the biggest crucial is like privacy, whether it's pictures or anything like that. Like a simple phone like this. I mean, we all have our contacts, we have our pictures, we have many different apps, we have many different reminders, anything, like whether it's business, because I'm sure we all have private business we have to do with companies or anything like that. And I'm sure a lot of the viewers will say, what happens if I even lose my phone, or I leave it open, or Wi-Fi access or anything like that? Because it's scary. Because when you see in the news or you read an article, say someone accessed someone's information just by the Wi-Fi of the phone. I mean, how scary, and how can a lot of the consumers or the viewers at home do to protect themselves? Because the threat is out there. What can we do to protect ourselves?
So I definitely agree with you. There's a threat that is imminent, and most of my professors that taught me don't have any online, which is funny that they don't have any online presence, either on LinkedIn or Facebook, which we know are the biggest social networks. They do not have presence. That's how they keep their identity secret, because they understand to what extent can we access and jeopardize personal information. Now you were saying that it was scary, but it's about to get scarier, because a lot of people are predicting within the next 5 to 10 years, Facebook and LinkedIn may be replacing other forms of identity, other forms of traditional identity, like passports. Indeed, LinkedIn. How
scary is that?
It is scary. Like in LinkedIn, you no longer need to get like a document from a bank, your workplace, saying, oh, you work at this place and here's your salary. You can just simply pull out your phone, pull out your LinkedIn account, and just show it to a bank. This is my ID. This is where I work. And then when it comes to Facebook, now these are serious plans, because it just makes it easier for all the governments and less costly. You know what I mean? So if you have the right authentication, like digital authentication tools, and you can make Facebook as a replacement to issuing millions and millions of IDs every year, then why not? So it does get scary. Now, all we can hope is that experts can work on as they progress to prevent, to mitigate any future attacks on our very important identification assets.
But now, like you mentioned, Mr. Abdullah, that right now is like Facebook or many of the professional sites we use. This is a lot of the information that we voluntarily give.
Right.
And we know when you use sites like that, you're just like, I want to make myself look good, whether it's a job application or something. Right. So you give a lot of information, private information, extra, and someone can just Google you, someone can just go online, something know everything about you.
Right.
And that makes it a bigger target for identity theft, for many issues with the bank calling you, is this your transaction or anything like that. What can a lot of the viewers at home, or like the consumers, many of them say, to do to limit themselves? What information will you recommend?
So initially, you need to practice self-awareness. You need to understand that you shouldn't share your entire life on these social networks. Yes, they're slowly infiltrating our lives. They're becoming more and more demanding to participate. When you see other people share their lives, you're like, well, I want to do that too. I want to be part of that social network. But the issue is that you don't have to do that. Do not be tempted to share your information. A lot of people put their addresses on their Facebook profiles, or they put their cell phone numbers, and you get and really, like a few colleagues of mine just a few days ago were talking about how they're getting calls from all these different companies, international companies, calling them from abroad, asking them to invest in this or invest in that. And like, how'd you get my phone number? Like, oh, it's from your LinkedIn account. Well, a lot of people, with good intent and good, people with good nature just want to share. They're sharing, they're open, you know what I mean? So they put their numbers on there and they put their emails there. But guess what? you get always targeted by the wrong people.
Making a huge target on yourself.
So that's the first layer of the fortress, if you will. Now the second layer of protection is definitely antivirus software. Every cell phone has an antivirus software. And a lot of times, like Norton McAfee, when you purchase the one on the PC, they'll give you 2 or 3 free subscriptions to download a version of the antivirus software on your mobile device. So let's say you have a tablet and you have a phone, you get free subscription because you purchased the initial account on the PC. So that's one thing you can do. A third layer of protection, what you could do is never get on a Wi-Fi network that does not have a security protocol. You know, a lot of networks don't have security protocols. People don't even know what that is, so you can get on there. But believe me, from expert, I've done my research during my studies, and it's very, very easy to get on networks and just snoop around and look at other people. Actually, I did it for a project for my class where I got into a McDonald's in the U.S. and they have a Wi-Fi network, so I got on there and I could see actually what's called the data packets that people are sending back and forth to websites. I know what websites people are trying to access.
So you can see what they're using.
I can see, and it's associated with the MAC address, which is like the machine address for a specific machine. So I told them, listen, I'm not trying to freak you out. I'm from this university across the street, but I just want to tell you that I know that you just accessed so-and-so's website. And I told him, is your MAC address? And I gave him his MAC address, and I checked his computer, and you can find out what the MAC address is. Get on there, it matched, and he's like, how would you do that? Are you a hacker? I'm like, I'm not a hacker, but I'm studying these things, and I understand that you need to always have that extra level of security. So yeah.
So any good advice that we'll just learn today? Any free Wi-Fi is bad Wi-Fi, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much. Nothing left is free. Free Wi-Fi is bad Wi-Fi.
Especially the people when they have a Wi-Fi, they have expertise like him, They can create their own Wi-Fi and just sit there and just mess with people, I guess.
There's something called I forgot what it's called, the honeypot or something, where you can actually that's how you attract hackers and attract people. You can just make your own Wi-Fi, get people to come in, and then pretty much steal data from them.
Especially in the public areas, say in the malls or something, just have a free Wi-Fi. And people just come to just using it a whole bunch.
So
and
tell us about it, because I think that from time to time we all use free Wi-Fi, such as when we are having long transit stays at different international airports to even our workplaces now, because a lot of the people who do not use the unlimited data roaming packages would be thinking about where it is that they would be able to use the free Wi-Fi. And of course, most of the respectable people would always try to get a real source and not try to steal somebody's free Wi-Fi connection. So now let's say when somebody, like for instance, we here at the Ministry of Culture and Information, we are using the ministry's Wi-Fi system, and when we are having transit stays at different airports, we're using those, or sometimes even restaurants. Are these safe for us, especially if we are not stealing somebody's Wi-Fi, but we are having an actual source?
So obviously there's always a password. You have a password that you get, which pretty much gives you a peace of mind that I'm accessing a secured network because there's a password. That's never a guarantee, unfortunately. Now it's based. You always want to think about, okay, who owns this Wi-Fi network? If it's a restaurant or just a little tiny place here and there, then the network really isn't going to be that secure. But when you think about bigger establishments, like an educational establishment or a government establishment or a media establishment like this one, then you could assume that there are layers of protection. No hacker is going to take the risk of infiltrating the security measures in an establishment like that, because they can be sued or prosecuted. But when you think about smaller places, I'm especially talking about restaurants. You want to avoid those. Definitely always avoid those. A lot of people, that's not even what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is sometimes you'll just be sitting somewhere and you'll see a Wi-Fi network that it doesn't make sense for that Wi-Fi network to exist in that place. Like in a public area that wouldn't usually provide a Wi-Fi network. Exactly. You always use common sense, and that's it. Really, common sense is the first thing you should approach when it comes to your security.
But actually, what happens, Mr. Abdullah, is that with people's addiction to social networking websites, a lot of the times your common sense fades away because you are addicted to it. So you're not really controlling your mind or any of your senses, because you just cannot wait to get back and start hitting on higher scores on those games that you are with.
Candy
isn't
Crush.
it?
Candy Crush. That's true. I agree with you. Yes, we are addicted to social networks, and we always need to feel connected. We need to know what other people are thinking or doing, or where they go, or what are they doing right now. So yes, we're always tapping into those social networks. But then again, you need to always practice self-control and make sure that, okay, if I don't have access to Wi-Fi right now,
Yeah.
I don't need to look at a suspicious network and try to get on it just to have my 5 or 10 minutes of fun. Now, and a lot of phones right now have the 4G accessibility and the 3G technologies that allow data to be sent back and forth in a secured manner. So so definitely take advantage of that when you can. It's safer to pay more on a data plan to be able to use more data and to be able to access
Have peace of mind.
They have peace of mind than to actually, because you're secured through the mobile network, right? And I'm not saying that's secured either. I mean, if they're serious hackers can definitely infiltrate anything they want to, even if it comes to mobile communication.
Less a percentage of actually.
But there's a less percentage of the risk actually happening. You're less exposed to that. When it comes to, I used to, for the longest time, maybe recently, now I access social networks from my cell phone, but for the longest time I only used social networks from PCs.
Yeah.
Or
I can wait, I don't have to.
Is it true, Mr.
No, but I think that, Mr. Abdullah, people never had, like, if we look back at even ourselves, you always being into gadget and technology, probably if you look back at yourself 4 years ago, maybe you were not as addicted to it as you are now. And for pretty much all of us, it's like, the more we have of it, the more we want of it.
Our lives are more intertwined with the
Yes,
social network.
indeed.
Exactly.
This is so
and they
true.
connect to everything, pretty much.
Absolutely. So now when we talk about it, you've been talking about mobile phone security when we are giving access to other people into our lives, right, through our cell phone devices. What about, for instance, a lot of the people, when they forget their cell phone somewhere, when they lose their cell phone, if their cell phone is stolen,
Right.
a lot of the times you would get to see them having difficulties and complications if they don't have a backup plan for all the data that they had in their phone. But a large number of people we would get to see have a backup plan, but they are afraid about their privacy now because of all those photos that they had in their cell phone and so much of the different things. I believe that people don't really put that much personal information such as bank account numbers, I hope, in their mobile phones or so. And there was a time that we were all asked that don't put your mobile phone numbers as in my dad, mom,
Right.
brother, sister, just put everybody by their name. So if somebody, steals your phone, they would not be able to know all that stuff.
Right.
But what about photos and things? What can we do for our phone security if we lose it?
Right. So thankfully, there's a lot of software that are either third-party software or software that are provided by the major cell phone operating systems creators, like Samsung and Android. Pretty much, it's used over lots of different hardware, like Samsung, LG, and all that. And also, iPhone has the iOS on it, provided by Apple. They all have these softwares where you can access remotely from a PC, and either through remote access, where you can actually have access to any sort of data on your phone, or to actually turn off a phone once it's lost. Once you realize that it's
How
lost.
do you do that?
You can. There's a software that you get it. You download it on the PC or on your Mac, and you connect it to the another app that you download on your phone.
Yeah.
And so pretty much once you realize that it's lost, you looked everywhere, you called it, it's turned off or whatever, you can have that. It either wipes out the data on the phone, or completely just turns it off and deems the phone unusable.
Yeah, it's just the hardware. That's all.
It becomes just a piece of hardware.
This
Exactly.
this is really, really remarkable, so that you would be free of that big concern. So you're just thinking about that small financial loss that you have had by losing your phone, but you have the peace of mind that you would not have access to
Right.
other.
You don't even have to go to that drastic measure. There's also apps where you can locate your phone if it's lost.
That's what I was going
Yes.
to ask you.
Yeah.
It's scary because now it's like, Facebook, all the other people, it's like, Mac, when you go in, they show you to your friends where you've been. He's at this area eating this or something like that.
Right.
Isn't it kind of very extra dangerous because someone's trying to find you? You know what I mean? So they just go see you there. You forget your phone, they just take it. They know all your information.
They know where
everything.
you've been, where the
They
places
know.
that you go to most frequently. Exactly. Well, there's lots of software that does that. Notably, Square. I think it's called. I don't even know the name of
Yeah.
the software because I don't
There
use it.
are quite
Is
a
it
few
Square or
ones.
something?
Yes.
So that software pretty much checks you in every time.
It's
Every
very
time you
dangerous.
check into a place, and you have the option, obviously, of
Turning it off.
or manually controlling it. Some people have it on automatic, so every time they walk by a place or drive by a place or walk in and stay there for a while, it clicks, it triggers it. So-and-so has been here 15 times, 14 times. So if someone really wants to get you, they'll
just
get
wait
you.
there.
Definitely, they'll just wait there for you.
But
exactly.
you're talking about the one that that you would know where your device is exactly
Yes.
located.
There are apps.
And one of my friends has been able to retrieve her pad, smart pad that she
Yeah.
left right here in our studio.
Right.
And I was thinking that it's gone because we have such a large number of people who come in and go, and you cannot, think as to where the piece has gone.
Right.
So she had forgotten it right here, and 2 days later, she gives me a ring. And that part of our studio is almost all dark.
Right.
And she says, I left it there so-and-so on a chair. And then, when we tried to locate it, we actually found exact location and we were able to find it. Even though it was taken away from here, and with safety, it was kept in one of the drawers of our team members here.
Right.
And, of course, they had the intention of returning it, and they kept it switched on. That was the reason. If somebody wants, they can locate it or ask about it.
Right.
But how do we do this?
So, fortunately, a lot of people resort to these security solutions after the fact, after it happens,
After losing something.
After losing something, oh, I wish I did this, I wish I did that.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, what you need to do is have that already installed on your device. You don't want to lose your device and say, oh, I wish I took 2 minutes of my time to download an app, to hook it up to the PC, to be able to control it whenever I want. So you need to do that before that gets because it'll happen. Things happen.
Things will happen.
So you want to take all these necessary measures before it happens. And you know what? I'm out of a very expensive piece of equipment. But not only is it pricey, it's very important. The information in it's worth multiple times.
I bet you ask anyone here in the studio or here at home, the information is more valuable than the phone. They say, I don't care about the phone.
Exactly.
I need their contact, the pictures, everything on there.
In my phone, I actually left a little note. I've done that since like maybe 2008 when I lost the phone and I never retrieved it. So I vowed every time I get a phone, I have a little note by the battery that says, you know what? If you find this phone, I'll give you the phone. Just give it to me so I can retrieve the data and give you the phone back.
So when he turns it, he's like, this is evidence.
This is the evidence, exactly, pretty much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Abdullah, for joining us today. It was an
Thank you very
absolute pleasure. Any last words you'd like to tell the guests?
Well, thank you very much for having me. I had a great time, and I definitely want mobile security to be embedded within our culture because they themselves have been embedded in our culture. So people should take all the necessary measures. Go as extreme as you can, because really, once it's lost, you would have wished that you have taken all these extremes to retrieve your device.
And we really hope that you're going to come back to our studios, join us with our smart pads and tablets, and do those security measures on it, and that we get to show it live on air so people get to really understand what is the modus operandi, because there are lots of people who completely have a blank space in their head for technology, and I can understand it because I suffered through it.
Right.
So it would be really, really a great way for us to be able to share it with the larger audience.
Step by
So
step.
we will look forward to that, and we'd like to thank you so much in the meantime for joining us in today's program.
Thank you.
And for the day viewers, that was Mr. Abdullah Ramadhan, who is a computer engineer, specialty and mobile phone security expert. If you have any questions for his next visit, please share with us on Facebook, Twitter, and email. We'll be more than happy to have him here in the guest and ready for your questions for him. Until next, for the moment, we'll be taking a short report, and we'll be joining our next guest right after this. Stay tuned.
Today we have the awareness day for our diabetic patients and endocrine patients. Diabetes, as everybody knows, is a very chronic disease, and also it's a disease that affecting almost a quarter of our community. Like 20% to 25% of the Saudi population, they have diabetes. And diabetes, unfortunately, is a disease that have a lot of complications. It might affect the eyes, it might affect the kidney, the heart, the blood vessels, and it might cause serious problems. So just keep people aware about it, and also the way how to avoid getting diabetes, and how to treat diabetes in a good way is actually the goals of this awareness program that we are having today. We hope that we will have our visitors either from the patients or also from the staff who are working with us at the KFMC to come around today and to increase their knowledge and also to answer their concerns and their questions regarding if they have the disease or any one of their families who has the disease. We'll be very happy to answer them and to sort of show them the best way to deal with this very sort of difficult and serious illness.
The diabetes mellitus includes weight loss, polyuria, which is increased urine output, and thirst. And sometimes patients will also have visual changes. If you have a strong family history of diabetes, or if you have any of these symptoms, it's a good point to get checked out for diabetes, and this is a simple blood test, usually done in a fasting state. And being diagnosed with diabetes, it's important that it's done earlier so that treatment can be started and so that we can avoid the complications of diabetes.
Welcome back once again. We hope that you enjoyed that subject of discussion that we had, which was all about your security and your cell phone security with Mr. Abdullah Ramadhan. And if you have any questions, as Suleiman has mentioned earlier, you can always write to us, and upon his next visit, he's going to be having all those queries of yours answered. But let us know, how did you find the segment, so we know what are the things that you want to know more about. And as today we were talking about mobile phone security, we are all thinking about it. It's a concern, so we hope that all of you would be able to benefit from the discussion we had. Now with this, we are embarking on towards our next discussion with lots and lots of people who are suffering through the day-to-day life complications of it, could be benefiting from it. We are going to be talking about diabetes with one of our favorite family medicine experts, which is Dr. Ihab Abdullah Al-Khattabi, who's joining us in today's program. Assalamu alaikum and good morning. How are you, Dr. Ihab?
Assalam alaikum. I'm fine, alhamdulillah.
It's good to have you back here in the studio, Dr. Ihab, and we hope that you had a pleasant Ramadan, though we got to see you in Ramadan, and we hope that you enjoyed the Eid break.
Yeah, alhamdulillah, everything went fine, and actually it's always a pleasure to be here and to discuss these issues which are of great interest to our audience and our viewers. So thank you for inviting me today.
It's our pleasure, Dr. Ihab. So the SHU is a segment particularly that we have here in the program that is to bring to your awareness all the more how it is that you can take better care of yourself. Now when we talk about diabetes, Dr. Ihab, I don't know if it's half of Saudi Arabia or more than half of it who are having diabetes or are on borderline diabetes.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about it. How do you deal with it?
Actually, the issue of diabetes is very important, and one of the most important, and it's a lot of talking about diabetes because of many issues. The first is the incidence, the number of people who have diabetes, because in our society there are a lot of research that proves that maybe between 25% to 35% of our adult population, they have diabetes. The problem of diabetes in many things. First, we have many categories. There is one category who have what we call ability to develop diabetes. And there is one category who have diabetes already, but it's not diagnosed or not discovered. And one group who have diabetes but uncontrolled. They know that they have the disease and they are diagnosed and they are taking medications, but they are uncontrolled. And a very small portion or very small percentage who are actually controlled. And for your surprise, that almost 20 to 25% of people or patients with diabetes, only the segment is controlled and reaching the targets or achieving the goals of treatment. So that's the problem.
Again, 25%?
25% of all patients with diabetes are under control. So in diabetes, it's very important to know what are the criteria for diagnosing diabetes, because sometimes it's difficult to diagnose diabetes and to start medications, because there are some criteria which should know what is the criteria for diagnosing diabetes, because it's not one measurement, it's high and that's diabetes and we should start the medications. Sometimes we have some risk factors for diabetes, like hereditary factor, like overweight, sometimes if with going with age, and also sometimes if there is sedentary life, stress, other problems like dyslipidemia or high cholesterol. All these issues will predispose to diabetes. In order to diagnose diabetes, we should have many tests. So the first test is fasting blood sugar, and fasting blood sugar should be always less than 120. So fasting blood sugar should be less than 120. If it is more than 120, so this one factor, but not the only one. We should take the blood measure for the sugar after 2 hours from food, and this should be less than 140. And we should do what's called glycosylated hemoglobin, and this is the sugar which is attached to hemoglobin. And this changes slowly. This does not change from one day to another, but it changes over 3 to 4 months. So this long-term indicator of diabetes, if it is under control or not.
This is hemoglobin A1C?
This is hemoglobin A1C, and this should be less than 6. And if it is higher than this, if it is, for example, 6.5, there is this what we call pre-diabetes. If it is more than 6.5, here we can diagnose, and it's confirmed that the patient has diabetes. So if we are, for example, still we are not sure, we do what we call glucose tolerance test. We give the patient 50 cc of glucose he will drink, and we measure the blood sugar every half an hour to make sure if the body is able to deal with this increase in the glucose level and to maintain the normal level of glucose in the blood. So these are the measures to evaluate the patient and diagnose diabetes. If it is diagnosed, we have targets, we have like goals to achieve. We should bring the fasting blood sugar to 120, we should bring the postprandial blood sugar to 140, and we should bring the glycosylated hemoglobin less than 6 in most cases. So these are the targets. In order
So
to
Dr. Ihab, let me ask you here very
Yes,
quickly,
please.
as you're talking about how to diagnose diabetes. Now, when, let's say that on a usual day, a lot of the people, when they talk about diabetes, they know that there are some of the symptoms to it, and they keep those symptoms in mind. Now, let's say that I go to a doctor's clinic on a regular day, and I have had a party last night, a celebration, something. I had a lot of sweets, and then I go to this doctor and I speak to him that I'm having, like, you know, frequent urination, I feel persistent thirst, and those kind of things. I'm assuming, or I'm afraid of diabetes, or my father has it, or so and so has it in my family. He's gonna do a blood sugar test for me and probably, you know, immediately start me on a diabetes medication, and this is what happens usually. So should we keep people very much aware that they have to take a glucose tolerance test, and when they go to a doctor they should know about it before?
That's absolutely right, Saima, because actually it's not only one measure. So as I said, we evaluate the patient. We should take history. We should consider the other risk factors, if there is any other concomitant diseases, if there is any other complications. So we evaluate the patient. We don't take one reading, because the reading is a number, and the number is not representing a human being. It's just a number. So it's not only that number. Sometimes it's high. But for your information, actually the kidney is able to perform some sort of regulation of blood sugar. It keeps blood sugar, or it keeps blood, sugar in the blood till the level of 170. So usually up till 170, the sugar will not appear in the urine, and the body can deal with it. If it is more than 170, then the kidney cannot be able to keep the blood sugar, and a measure of regulating the blood sugar, the kidney will get rid of the excess sugar. There will be what we call glucosuria, and the glucosuria means the presence of sugar in urine, which is normally not there. So if sugar comes into urine, this will attract water. Water will come with the sugar into urine, and there will be what we call polyuria. the patient will go to the toilet many times. So manifestations will not appear except the blood sugar exceeds 170. So this is a stage where manifestations will appear. And usually manifestations of early blood sugar is polyuria. The patient will go to the toilet many times and also be thirsty, will take a lot of water, but cannot keep the water for a long time because the problem is that he is losing a lot of water with urine, and that's why he is thirsty. He takes a lot of water, and this is what we call polydipsia. So all the water is coming and going out is as a circle. This will go into vicious circle, and anybody notices that there is polyuria, he goes to the toilet many times, especially during night time, because usually during night time we go only once or maximum twice. If it is more than this, or always going 3 or 4 times per night, we should be very careful. Because
So that means it's affecting your nighttime sleep.
that's
as
right.
well.
That's right. That will affect the night sleeping and also will be alarming. Because some people, they think they drink a lot of water and that's why they go to the toilet frequently. But it's vice versa. They go to the toilet frequently, sometimes cannot stay for half an hour. And some people sometimes delay with going, checking the blood sugar, even these manifestations appear. This will lead to dehydration. There will be like dryness of the body. The body will be drying out. And this will lead to many manifestations also, will lead to disturbance in the level of electrolytes, sodium and potassium in the blood, will lead to dryness and dehydration of the eye lens. There will be blurred vision. There will be lack of energy, fatigue, and the body is not able to get use of the sugar because actually of lack of insulin. Insulin is lacking or not effective. So this will lead to lack of energy because insulin transfers sugar from outside the cell into inside the cell. So if there is lack of insulin, which is a carrier, which carries sugar, sugar will be accumulated highly in the blood, but inside the cell is suffering from lack of glucose, which is the main source of energy
So
to the cell.
having too much water, because I'm sure like diabetes, because they get thirsty a lot, because they have to drink too much water. But earlier in the show we were saying about, I'm not sure if it's true, please correct me, but for many diabetics to drink water regularly. But the issue, like you mentioned, is like because they're
Loss of
diabetic,
water.
but they're diabetic, they have to drink too much water, which is also bad. That's excessive water. Is that correct?
No, they are drinking a lot of water and losing a lot of water.
Okay.
So the loss of water will be more than even the amount they are taking.
So you need to
So
take more.
the end result will be dryness
All right.
because of loss of a lot of water. So if you, for example, the patient is taking 5 liters of water, he will lose 6 liters of water. So he will lose more water than he is taking.
Right.
So the end result is dehydration.
Is
The
it for-
patient will be in a state of dehydration.
Is it mostly for the patients that are not diagnosed? Because I'm sure you see many patients, you know what I mean, they're overweight, they think no, they disregard a lot of the symptoms. They're fatigued, they're tired, too excessive water, they eat all the unhealthy food, and they're gaining more weight, and they refuse to go to, say, a physician like you. Is that one of the biggest problems for a lot of patients? They avoid getting regular checkup, checking the bloods, and this is where a lot of complications happen?
Yes, Salman. Because actually the problem is that there is a big problem which is denial and the negligence. So denial, the patient usually denies that he has a problem. He tries to fix it on his own. He doesn't want to go to the physician
Yeah.
because usually we
that's
have
true.
the phobia of disease. We are afraid that to be diagnosed, for example, with hypertension or diabetes or heart disease. So this phobia usually prevents the patient of going to the physician. He tries to fix the problem himself. He tries to deny. He tries to resist the disease. So this is a problem. If actually the relation is healthy relation between the patient and the health system of the doctor, this will help in doing what we call screening. We do screening. Any patient comes to the clinic, we should check the blood sugar, whatever the age. Because sometimes the patient, as I said, is coming, for example, for a common cold. And if we don't do screening, we ask about all the systems. For example, one of the most important questions we have to ask the patient, how many times you go to the toilet? Because usually this simple question can answer. And usually, for example, the patient says, I go, for example, 10 times. Don't you consider this abnormal? He says, no, I am drinking a lot of water. That's why I love water. I drink water. And that's why I'm going many times. How many times you go at night. I wake up, for example, 4 times or 5 times. Don't you consider this abnormal? He says no. So the patient usually is resistant and consider this normal. The other point, which is very important, Suleiman, that the body is able to tolerate. There is some changes in the body. After a while, the body will tolerate the changes, and sometimes the symptoms disappear. Because the body is trying to get energy. It's not able to get the energy from glucose. The body gets another pathway. He gets energy from protein, which is the muscles. So usually the patient with diabetes loses weight, but loses weight because of losing muscles, which is protein mass, not the fat, and the other thing, losing water. So there will be loss of water and loss of muscles and loss of protein. That's why the patient loses weight unhealthy. If he loses weight from the fat mass, this is good, but actually he loses weight from protein. The problem is when we are producing energy from protein instead of glucose, there will be some toxic materials, what we call acetone. Acetone will be produced in the body, and this will change the acidity of the blood and will cause very serious problems. That's why if we are not controlling diabetes, the patient sometimes there is a change of the manifestations will be apparent, but actually there will be very serious complications later on. The patient will lose weight but unhealthy. The patient will go with dehydration, will go with complications in the blood vessels, other complications like atherosclerosis, heart disease, brain problem, kidney problem, will go with the complication. The most important point, we have to diagnose early. As we diagnose the disease early, we'll avoid a lot of complications.
Like prevention is a major factor.
That's very important. And prevention means that blood sugar should be checked every 6 months to 1 year, especially if there's other risk factors or if there's very strong family history. So we should check blood sugar, and the very simple test and can be done in the clinic. And the screening also is very important to check very early, because most of the cases, as I said, goes undiagnosed or improperly controlled.
So,
Now, Dr. Ihab, you have spoken about diabetes in general, and as well as you spoke about how it is that we could possibly prevent it and some of the early signs and symptoms as well. Tell us as to what are the reasons that people get diabetes. I mean, should we think that if we are indulging, because a lot of the people think it's directly related to sugar, so they would think that if you stay away from sweets and desserts, then you could be able to prevent diabetes, but they don't really think about, you know, how they're consuming so many of the carbs, especially rice here in Saudi Arabia, that could be leading to eventually in the long run diabetes. Tell us a little about the causes of diabetes.
Actually, the most important is that diabetes has a hereditary factor. So hereditary factor, this does not mean that if I have father and mother having diabetes, I'll have diabetes.
That's type 1 diabetes.
No, this is even in type 2 diabetes.
In all diabetes.
Type 1 diabetes, it's actually irreversible because there is damage of all alpha cells which secrete insulin in the pancreas, and this because of
You
secreting
have to take insulin
antibodies.
no matter what.
Yes,
Yeah,
but for type 2, there is damage of percentage of the beta cells which secrete insulin in the pancreas. So that's why it's a preventable disease. We can prevent, or we can even delay, or we can avoid if we try, even we have hereditary factor. But there are other factors.
Tell us about hereditary factors. So you said that if your father and mother have it, does not mean it runs in your
Yes,
family.
that's right.
Tell us more about it.
Because actually we have predisposition. So this, if we have two choices. Either we go for healthy choice, we can avoid diabetes, or we go for unhealthy choice. Healthy choice means first is lifestyle change. We should change our lifestyle. We should change our food habits. We should take, instead of a lot of sugar and carbohydrates, we can take a lot of vegetables, we can take fruits, we can take meat without fat, boiled or grilled, we can take chicken, boiled or grilled, we can take fish, we can take little amount of rice, macaroni, pasta, we can take brown bread. So we use the food which is healthy. So healthy food is very important. The other factor is exercise. We should do exercise because exercise will burn even the excess fat and will reduce the body weight and will help to keep good shape and good.
And I'm sure
health.
you've noticed a lot of the patients, they don't want to exercise. They say, I exercise for this much, and then they stop.
Actually, even if you cannot do exercise, at least increase your physical activity or do
Walking
much
around.
more effort or burning or expenditure of energy, not to be stored as fat. The third thing is the actually the keeping body weight, because actually if we have overweight, this is one of the most important factors predisposing to diabetes. Stress adds to these factors, age, and also the as I said, in general, as lifestyle. If we choose this healthy choice, we can avoid diabetes. But if we go for overweight, if we go for bad eating habits, sedentary life, stress, all these factors will predispose even in very young age, because now actually it's like you are using your pancreas abnormally. The pancreas actually secretes insulin, which regulates the level of sugar in the blood. If we are abusing our pancreas, or we are using a lot of insulin, or we are using the pancreas abnormally, this will lead to abnormal level of insulin and also will lead to diabetes.
Yes, and Dr. Ihab, you mentioned like 25% of patients with diabetes are under control. Only
Yes.
25. Why is that so?
Many factors, and this is very important question, and I want to just summarize in very few points, because the first point is the patient is going undiagnosed, so this will lead to will be uncontrolled. The second factor is, as I said, patient resistance. The patient usually comes, I'll not take medication may cause problems, these are chemicals, I'll not take medication. So usually we advise the patient with lifestyle modification. And as you said, in most of the cases, the patient will not abide to the lifestyle modification, will not change anything. Nothing will be changed. So after 1 month, 2 months, make sure that the patient will come with the same problem, same body weight, same life habits, nothing changed. So actually, the patient is not abiding to the advice of
Not
changing
his
the lifestyle.
just keeping the same.
Yes. The third is lack of information. There is no education. Usually the diabetic patient needs a lot of education. We should convince the patient that what is the problem of this disease, but with not exaggerating. Because if we exaggerate, this will lead to depression, and the patient also will not abide to your advice. So just advise wisely. Explain to the patient, educate the patient, what is diabetes, what is the cause of diabetes, how can we improve, how we should control, how we can avoid the complications.
So do not just set a goal, set what were you doing to reach that goal.
Absolutely right. Put a plan and the
then
goal
achieve it.
setting. Yes, that's right. You put
And
goals.
Dr. Ihab, with this, as we are running out of time and we have to incorporate a report into the program as well, we understand that you wanted to talk about the new treatment modalities for diabetes as well. If you could just go about it.
Actually, there are now some medications which are newly introduced to our market here, but actually these medications are in the market, international market, European and American, maybe for the last 8 years, from 2006. And this group of new medications, they are injectable, but they are not insulin, because usually we think that it's insulin which is taken by injection. These medications are taken injectable, but not insulin. These medications, they have new dimension of treatment. They have some advantages. Actually, this medication will help the patient to be controlled, will help to reduce the level of glucose, will help to reduce the body weight, and also this medication will help to like preservation of the beta cells which secrete insulin and reduce the appetite. That's why they have some positive influence on the body
So
weight,
you could
which is
lose
very
weight
important.
as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
so
And this is the medications for type 2 diabetes. As you're
this
talking.
actually this for type 2 diabetes, and they are taken with all other groups as adding on medications, except with some types of insulin, because if the patient is taking insulin, will not be able to take this medication for the time being. There is no research about
this is
that.
especially for the people who are not willing to go for lifestyle modification, that it is going to take care of their blood sugar and would help them to be reducing weight as well in
Absolutely
order
right.
not to get complications
right,
from
Sai.
diabetes.
That's right.
So we would advise the patients, especially who are seeing doctors, maybe doctors who are not really as efficient with helping them to beat diabetes, to speak to them about the new injectable medication for diabetes so that it may help to control their blood sugar better. With this, Dr. Ihab, it's always such a pleasure to have you here with us in the studio, and we hope that you come back and visit us soon again.
It's my pleasure always. Thank you very much and have a nice day. Thank you.
You too, Dr. Ihab. With this, it's time for us to be embarking on towards our next report for the day before the conclusion. Stay tuned.
Okay, it's something wonderful that you have a team that who's caring for you. We cannot see these things in other facilities. Yani, we are doing this frequently for our staff to check, because sometimes we discover things that we don't know about it, like diabetes, like hypertension. These things, it's not always discovered by the staff. Sometimes accidentally you'll come just to do screening, then you'll discover it. I appreciate the team and the staff for that one.
Tell me about the result. How much did you get?
81, which is normal. Yeah, it is a normal reading for an adult fasting blood sugar.
Welcome back to the viewers of the short report, and today we covered so much information. We covered about the family medicine with Dr. Ihab, about diabetes, and hopefully you got more of the information that you required, because I'm sure diabetes does not discriminate. It gets the old, the middle age, and especially the young nowadays. And we also had Mr. Abdullah Ramadhan, who's a computer engineer, and discussed about mobile phone security expert. And let us know about on our Facebook, Twitter, and email, what did you think about today's episode, what future episodes or discussion you would like us to cover. And I'm sure it was very interesting, and it was kind of heavy today, but it was something that's very exciting, and I truly enjoyed it. And from me, Sulaiman Zahif and Saima Aziz, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.